This painting was a color study of gray, black, white with blue and a pop of neon yellow. I spoke about color studies and my tips for color story inspirations in a previous video, and I can link it for you at the very end of this if you're curious and you want to watch it. For this painting, I wanted to render a quiet winter night. I used ultramarine blue straight out of the tube. This created a very serene and rich night sky. As you can see, I'm going for that rich pigmented color from the horizon line and fading it upward to a lighter shade of blue to have that feeling of nighttime, as opposed to the other painting where I started the blue at the top for a daytime kind of feeling. Using the exact same colors within a composition, but organizing them in a different way gives a totally different feel. And that's something to really keep in mind, most especially when you work in a more expressive style or more abstract, when there's no distinguishable features or forms and you're working strictly with colors, textures, and composition. It's very helpful to know that you have options to organize the colors in a certain way to make the painting pop or have a more darker or lighter or quiet or busy feel, depending on the choices you make, and all that within the exact same color palette. Abstract can mean so many different things to every single person. It could be very messy, it could be very spontaneous, it could be intuitive and all exploded and with having so many different colors, but it can also be very held back or organized or subtle. Everything is good, everything is valid, but it's good for me to remind myself of those little details and going back to basic with just a few colors and how much you can do and how interesting things could be even with a very limited color palette. Within this color study, obviously I'm using neutral tones, black, white, gray, with my pop of blue and yellow. I also thought about different textures and keeping a good balance between having very smooth gradients and having some pops of textures. I use a palette knife with white acrylic paint to create those snowy mountain tops. And I used an oil paint stick, which I spoke about in a separate video, to create a horizon line and more texture to kind of ground the painting and have contrast. If you like the texture of charcoal, the oil paint stick gives that same kind of feel, the drawing feeling and that texture, but it's paint. In my color study, I was very attracted by that neon yellow, the big pop that draws you in. In the previous video I was talking to you about, it was a snowy daytime kind of feel that I was going for. So that pop of light could kind of make sense, but in this quiet winter night composition, the pop of light doesn't really make sense. But that's exactly why I wanted to try this. Having something so bold that doesn't make sense, so out of the blue, I feel like it creates a surprise, and that's why it draws you in. I personally really like the effect it gives. I get that quiet night feeling, but also that warmth from the yellow that draws you in. To create that effect of snow or stars in the sky, whatever meaning you want to give it, I used very diluted white acrylic paint and a stiff brush to flick some paint on the canvas. It's a cool technique. It's very easy to get carried away with it. So my general advice would be to think less is more, but it's a type of texture that can be very interesting. If you like expressive paintings, if you want more art tips and inspiration, you can watch this one next.